I think we've all grown up watching cartoons, which means we've all been exposed to some garbage tropes in our lives, making us want to turn the TV off by throwing a brick at it. Today we're talking about exactly those, the worst cartoon tropes we're all tired of. So let's not waste any more time and let's begin. I don't understand these episodes. Sure, we find a little bit of slapstick funny, but that doesn't mean that we are heartless demons. If the pain is deserved, fair play. But torture porn episodes are lacking exactly that, because the formula is always the same shit. We have a miserable character. That character wants a little bit of peace and quiet. They're just sitting around, harming absolutely no one. And then we have one of the characters, oftentimes the main character, just straight up rage baiting them for no reason. As if these motherfuckers aren't dealing with enough. Like, how hard is it to leave them alone? And it isn't even that they're suffering in silence either. We literally can see their veins popping out on the verge of exploding like a creeper. All while they're screaming with pure agony to leave them alone. But the main character is either a complete dumbass, or they're an evil genius that gets off on making others suffer. All those internet experts, they told me that red rooms aren't a real thing. That there are no rooms where people pay to watch someone's destruction. But these episodes are literally proving them wrong. Like, we're seeing a character on the verge of being sent to an insane asylum, and then you dare telling me that there's no such thing as a red room. Perfect example of this, of course, Squidward. Sure, there have been moments where he deserved what he went through, but most of the time he's victim just for the sake of it. Another example is Benson from Regular Show. The first boss I've seen getting tormented by their own employees. Normally it's the other way around, but for some reason he decides to put up with them, even though they literally find a way to blow up the planet every time. Of course there are some other examples like Tom from Tom and Jerry and Kyle from Fanboy and Chum Chum, but I think we get the point, because again, slapstick is funny if they deserve it, or at the very least, brought it upon themselves. But the only thing they did was commit the crime of living in the wrong place, at the wrong time, around the wrong people. If my younger self felt disgusted, feeling like I watched someone's descent into madness, then there must be something wrong. This is something that I touched upon in my anime tropes video, but it has a small twist. Because sure, they also have the tendency to fall off a cliff and then stand up as if nothing's wrong, right? That's pretty much the usual in these sorts of shows. But cartoons also have another quirk up their sleeves. Because getting punched through 50 different buildings only gives them a concussion. But slipping on a fucking banana peel? Oh no, call the ambulance. Like, where does that make sense? How do they survive the impossible, but flail in agony because of a paper cut? It's like they maxed out their magic defense, but completely forgot to put points in their physical defense. And I'm not pulling that shit out of my ass either. Here's some examples. SpongeBob went flying through the atmosphere, high-fived Mars, fell back down, and then on a buff guy. Only ending up stressed because he tried not to get beaten up. But in the same episode, we see an ambulance escorting him out because he slipped on an ice cube. Or here we have another example, Gumball. He gets crushed by a literal T-Rex, but the moment he gets bitten by a spider, he ends up in the fucking hospital. The ambulance isn't innocent in this one either, because they're so quick to help a guy out who got mildly wounded, but then completely ignore the guy next to them who's hanging on by a thread, falling in a man-sized blender. It's ridiculous, it's funny, it's cartoon logic. As you can tell, I'm a horrible liar and actually like this trope, but I'll still include it anyway because it doesn't make it any less ridiculous. Another one that I kinda like, but fuck it. The talking to the news reporter trope is the most cartoony shit you can think of. We have a character that had some type of problem, right? They're thinking of a solution, but oh wait, the TV is still on, and coincidentally, they have a commercial or a news report that's talking about that one exact thing. An example. Someone says that they would rather shove a cactus up their ass than having to clean their house up again. Having a commercial popping up that exact moment, starting off with some bullshit like, would you rather put a cactus up your ass than to clean up your house? And then the character tries talking to TV, thinking they're some type of Disney princess talking to some animals. And then the cherry on top, they come in with the most sketchy product known to man. Either that, or we have a news reporter that's going like this. There's a cock-eating zombie outbreak in towns like Miniburg, Straderdale, Flat City. And then they stop. Having the character then say something like, but what about Minitown? To which the reporter comes in with, and you might be asking, what about Minitown? Shit like this can be found in almost all the cartoons, like The Loud House, Family Guy, Gumball, etc, etc. Like, I wish advertisements were this handy in my life, but that would mean selling my data alongside my entire soul to a third-party criminal group. And even if I did that, seeing the state of YouTube's ads, chances are that I see more ass and cheeks than anything of use. Like, I want necessities, not luxuries, so get those cheeks out of my face. Sure, this is something that happens in real life too, but that doesn't mean that I want to be reminded of it. This trope just pisses me off. The kid can be the most unbearable sack of shit who's causing total destruction, and their parents will look at them and be like,
Aw, our child is a little rebellious today.
And this trope can be split into two types. The first one is the type of character that acts like an angel in front of the adults, but like a complete menace to people their own age. Sure, these types of characters are annoying, but can I blame the adults? Yes. Yes, I can. The insane part is, you raise this piece of shit to be that way, and you end up getting manipulated by your own creation. It's like you make a killer robot, but end up first with a sword down your throat. The best examples I can think of are Angelica from Rugrats and Lola Loud. Two unlikable little girls that get princess treatment by the adults, all while being an unlikable prick to anyone else. But alright, the other type is the one that not only is a dick to people their own age, but also to their own parents, which is even more insane to me. How did you demote yourself from a caregiver to a slave? Where is your backbone? Legit, if I were them, my belt would be working overtime. Ain't no way that I'm letting myself get bossed around by a condom malfunction. The best examples of these are Belson from Clarence, Lars in the early seasons of Steven Universe, and of course, this bitch from the Redonkulous race. And I have no idea why creators love making characters like these. They didn't work in the 50 other shows they were featured. What makes you think it would work the 51st time? At least if you add one of them, let them actually feel the consequences of it. There's nothing more frustrating than watching an oblivious motherfucker be blind for the sake of plot. Especially if you see a normally smart character being one of them. It's like you're having a guy with perfect vision putting on a blindfold before driving. Like, how does that make sense? There's no way in hell that they're this stupid. They can solve the most difficult math problem imaginable, but somehow they're blind to some real danger happening right in front of them. On top of that bullshit, we also have a character that does thankfully notice something is off. You know, restoring some faith in humanity, but that shit quickly comes crashing down as the others in the cast choose to ignore them. Continuing doing that until it's too late, and then they'll bullshit with some line like, "You were right. We should have listened to you." Like, hell nah. A story doesn't cut it anymore. I demand an hour-long foot massage, a mansion, and you wearing a maid costume. The best examples I could come up with are the following. In Steven Universe, Steven catches some strange warped creature, he points it out, but everyone including Garnet just acts like he went through sleep paralysis, acting like his imagination was on full-on overdrive. Up until he almost died trying to prove his point. And I personally wouldn't risk my life trying to save a bunch of dumbasses, but that's just me. Another example is My Little Pony. Yes, a grown man talking about My Little Pony. Scandalous. Anyway, we have Twilight in the Wedding episode, we had a bad feeling about the bride. Turns out she was right, and the power of friendship did its thing. Of course there are some other examples, but I think you get my point. This shit is done for comedic and drama purposes, but it feels in both ways. Feeling extremely forced that doesn't make you laugh, and neither gets you on the edge of your seat. Anyway, that was it for today. Like, subscribe, comment something funny, and I'll see you all in the next one.